It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Social Business Conference 2024. It brings me great joy to see so many familiar faces and to welcome new guests to this event. My name is Samantha Caccamo and I'm the CEO of Social Business Earth, a nonprofit enterprise that supports and facilitates the development of impact startups and sustainable business models through consulting, training, and the organization of events such as this one, with the objective to connect impact startups with potential investors and stakeholders useful for their growth. 2 years ago, with my colleague and friend Massimiliano Sassoli de Bianchi, owner of this beautiful space, Area 302, whom I thank warmly for his energy and commitment, we decided to give life to the Social Business Innovation Lab to strengthen the ecosystem of impact startups from Ticino, from Switzerland, and from countries around the world. The startups that we support are early stage, they have proof of business traction, and address at least one SDG. They are led by young visionaries and change makers who are not only imagining to create a better world, to make a positive change, but they are actually working very hard to make it happen. The support we offer is in the form of consulting, access to a network of stakeholders and investors, free workstations, and the Sapiens Natura Prize. In this room, we have an incredible wealth of knowledge and skill. And during the panel discussion, we will hear from experts in the areas of impact entrepreneurship, social innovation, impact investing, and sustainability in the agri-food sector and human rights. We have gathered some impressive panelists whom we thank for being here. And they are Mr. Freddy Hunziker, CEO of New Roots, producer of delicious organic plant-based cheeses that you will have the chance to taste a little bit later. Mr. Sebastiano Cossia Castiglioni, award-winning entrepreneur, activist and impact investor, chair of the biodynamic and vegan winery Quercia Bella. Mr. Emmerich Jung, former managing partner of Quadia, an impact investing fund in Geneva. And Dr. Tania Collavo, course director at the Institute for Sustainability and Leadership at the University of Cambridge. Sustainability seems to be the magic word on everyone's mouth nowadays. However, I can state with pride and joy that one of the aspects that differentiates this event from others is that there is no greenwashing here. We are not here to pretend. We are here to use business as a force for good without the ulterior motive to maximize profit. All the startup founders who are here today have a common goal, a common vision that is perfectly aligned with the purpose of the Social Business Conference. And it is creating equal opportunities for all through innovative business models while respecting the natural world and all living beings. It sounds very simple when said like that, doesn't it? And yet, it is one of the hardest challenges in modern society, because the main motive that still drives the majority of people in business today is making money. And until we realize that maximizing profit cannot be the sole purpose of doing business, we will continue to fail humanity, ourselves, future generations, and our planet. Now, the focus of this year's edition of the SBC is sustainable food, sustainable agriculture, and human rights. We have 5 amazing impact startups who will pitch here today, and they are Niatsu, Food Flows, White Rabbit Bakery, and EOS. They are all Swiss, and you will find out more about them in the pitching session. To the impact entrepreneurs and founders, I just want to say congratulations for your boldness, your creativity, your passion, your hard work, your skill, and your innovation. You are incredibly talented, and you inspire us every day. I wish you much success. To that end, we have a little surprise. We want to recognize you and your work, and for the first time this year, we are launching the Sapiens Natura Prize, an award for impact startups that offers a small cash prize to the winner and free consultancy packages to the startups who rank first, second, and third place. The name Sapiens Natura originates from the words sapiens, as in Homo sapiens, and natura, nature, from Latin. The two words together, Sapiens Natura, should be understood in the sense of the wisdom of nature and of humanity gaining sufficient wisdom to become the loving guardian rather than the destroyer of nature. In addition to the prize, we will also give away a free workstation for a year at the Social Business Innovation Lab and a smaller consulting package. We hope to attract more sponsors in the future to increase the cash prize next year. We are also building a network of mentors who are experts in their field and are willing to dedicate a couple of hours a month to our startups. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the team of Social Business Earth, in particular our two interns, Ibtisam and Zaman. Your work has been paramount in organizing and promoting this event. Thank you so much. Then, of course, a big thank you to Massimiliano, whose forward vision has been instrumental for the implementation of the Social Business Conference. Please give them a round of applause. A big thank you also to Luca, Ronnie, Sarah, and Katia, and to our board of directors, Gianluca Colombo, Giovanni Vergani, and Silvana Salvatore, whose advice is invaluable. I would also like to thank our sponsors, Axion Swiss Bank, New Roots, Mastaba Coffee, Tenuta Castello di Morcote for their support. And last but not least, to the city of Lugano for their patronage. Now let's talk a little bit about food. Food is vital for life, but also for community and culture. Food also plays a vital economic role, giving work to more than 2 billion people and representing roughly 10% of the global economy. Enough food is produced annually to provide nutrition for everyone, but a large portion is fed to livestock, wasted, or used to manufacture non-food products such as biofuels. Some 2 billion people lack adequate access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food, including about 800 million people suffering daily from hunger. Before I delve into the environment, I want to talk about human rights and how they are related to food systems. Millions of workers in the agri-food business are exploited every day all over the world. The implementation of human rights standards and principles is fundamental to achieving food sustainability. Human rights should be fully incorporated into domestic normative and policy frameworks governing food systems. Governments must ensure that food systems operating in their territories respect the human rights of everyone and that they promote equality. This requires the adoption of specific measures to ensure that the rights of disadvantaged groups such as children, women, persons with disabilities, migrants, refugees, people living in poverty are promoted and protected. Industrial agriculture contaminates air, water, soil, and the food chain with toxic substances, pesticides, herbicides, synthetic fertilizers, microplastic, and drugs, which cause harm to human and non-human life. They must be decreased, not only for the environment, but because they also pose a serious threat for people's and animals' lives. Last but not least, Food security must be provided to the 800 million people living in hunger. Therefore, governments must guarantee that everyone has sufficient resources to purchase a basic food basket that satisfies one nutritional needs. And now the environment. According to the UN, around 30 to 35%, that is 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions, are generated by food systems, which also use more water than all other human activities combined, and generate vast volumes of air, water, and soil pollution. But how does 17.9 billion tons of global greenhouse gas emissions break down? Well, there is land use. This includes deforestation, peatland degradation and fires, and emissions from cultivated soils. There is agricultural production, which includes emissions from synthetic fertilizers and the energy used to manufacture them, manure, methane emissions from livestock and aquaculture, fuel use from on-farm machinery. And finally, there is the supply chain, which includes all emissions from food processing, packaging, transport, and retail, such as refrigeration. A study in 2020 also included the post-retail factor, meaning all the energy used by consumers for food preparation, cooking at home, and emissions from consumer food waste. Today, we know that half of the world's habitable land is used for agriculture. Habitable land is ice and desert-free land. 70% of global fresh water is used for agriculture. 78% of global ocean and freshwater eutrophication is caused by agriculture. Eutrophication is the pollution of waterways with nutrient-rich water. The biggest plastic polluter by far is the fishing industry. All in all, the data I just mentioned is to say that making responsible choices in what we eat and how we produce our food plays a key role in tackling climate change, reducing water stress and pollution, restoring lands back to forests and grasslands, protecting the world's wildlife. Let me give you another piece of information. Beef, lamb, fish, cheese, pig meat, poultry meat, and eggs are the foods that emit the highest quantity of greenhouse gas emissions to be produced. We need to reduce their consumption. Unfortunately, a large percentage of meat is produced through intensive farming that causes unspeakable harm to animals and poses high risks of pandemics from zoonotic diseases. In Europe, many intensive animal farms are subsidized by the European Union. We know this thanks to the recent documentary film Food for Profit by Italian journalists Giulia Innocenzi and Pablo D'Ambrosi, who have spent the last 5 years investigating intensive animal farms. In Switzerland, from the research I've done, there is no intensive animal farming. Nevertheless, animal husbandry is responsible for approximately 85% of all agricultural greenhouse gas emissions, 75% alone by cattle livestock. In addition, a 2023 study by ETH and EPFL says that Switzerland is highly dependent on intensive agriculture. Therefore, many natural places, forests, meadows, are threatened to provide space for monocultural fields, which result in soil degradation and reduced biodiversity. Last but not least, according to pilot estimates by the Swiss Federal Office for Statistics, 65% of the greenhouse gas emissions footprint of Switzerland is generated by imports, including food and non-food. Guess how much land we could return to nature if we all went vegan? The British environmentalist and biologist Sir David Attenborough recently said that if 8 billion of us shift away from eating meat and dairy and move towards a plant-based diet, we would reduce agricultural land use by a staggering 75%. Think about it. We could free up the area the size of the United States, China, the EU, and Australia combined. Space that could be given back to nature. Okay, it's unlikely that this will happen. But equally, if we all reduce our animal consumption by just half, we would see around 37.5% reduction in land use, which is still a huge gain for nature. If we all take small steps, it will all add up. Mine is not a request that you all become vegan tomorrow, although it would be nice, but it's a plea to encourage you to reduce your meat, fish, and dairy consumption to help the planet regenerate itself. Or then, at the very least, start buying only high-quality organic meat products, not from intensive farming. Sir David said that self-interest prevailed in the past and common interest must prevail in the future. And I will add that common interest should also prevail in the present. We must act now, not tomorrow, now. Each of us plays a crucial role to improve the agri-food system and our planet. As consumers, we have enormous power. I am confident that empathy will save us. Empathy for animals, empathy for nature, and for young generations, as we learn to make conscious choices and cherish the natural world. After all, we are part of it, and we depend on it. Thank you all very much for being here. Enjoy the conference, and I now give the floor to my dear friend and colleague, Massimiliano Sassoli de Bianchi, President of Area 302. Thank you.
All right. So, after this beautiful presentation by Samantha, let me add just a few words before kicking off this event. As per tradition, we will start with a musical moment with Eleonora Murgia. However, it is not just about starting on the right note. Listening to music brings us back to the broader concept of art. And by mental association, if only in the mind of a scientist like me, art brings me also back to science. There are indeed human activities that require both art and science. That is, they require combining both the creativity and the intuition of an artistic activity and the precision and rigor of the method of science. I believe that this combination between art and science, between intuition and creativity, and the analytical and methodological skills of science is increasingly necessary in the complex world in which we live. Otherwise, we will not make it through the great challenges of the historical moment where humanity stands on the brink of a global collapse. Speaking of collapse, let me remind you that six planetary critical boundaries have already been largely exceeded. I'm talking about the boundaries that are fundamental to maintaining the stability and resilience of the Earth's system as a whole. These include loss of biodiversity, pollution, carbon emissions, and depletion of freshwater resources. All this is leading us to encounter a singularity, that is, a point of unpredictability of our future. Samantha rightly evoked the concept of greenwashing. Just as there is the term greenwashing, the term collapse washing has also recently been coined, to be understood as forms of communication that hide the undesirable effects of strategies that supposedly reduce the risk of such collapse, but which in fact go in the opposite direction. In other words, we must remain alert. We don't have to blindly believe everything we are told, but neither should we disregard all the valuable information that is out there or be indifferent to all the good that's been done. On the contrary, we must encourage it. We need a vision of the future that is not heir to the corruption of the past, but at the same time does not lead us to lower our arms, thinking that anyway, there is nothing more we can do to stop the coming disaster. Let us try with humility to implement those solutions that are really viable. Every country, every society, company, individual can set an example and in this way increase the positive imitative mechanism. Regarding human rights, which are also a focus of this year's event, let us also seek to promote the free debate of ideas and fight all forms of censorship, so that today global crisis does not turn into a democratic crisis. Change should be promoted, but it cannot be imposed. Otherwise, to solve one problem, we will end up creating an even bigger one. For example, that of a society of permanent control. We need to combine the sensitivity of art and the effectiveness of science and human innovation. But how to do it? The sine qua non for succeeding, in my opinion, is to open ourselves to a more spiritual view of life. For only in a search for meaning can we come to a more mature and less conflicting view of the world, contemplating how the different aspects of life are interconnected and interdependent. Only by valuing evolution also in a consciential sense will we be able to overcome the current divisions. This will foster a broader and deeper understanding of the problems we are required to solve and enable us to identify solutions that are truly within our grasp, while respecting universal human values. Solutions that are not only technically effective, but also morally and ethically acceptable. It is ultimately about finding a greater balance between mind and heart. Thank you. And now let me introduce Miss Eleonora Murgia, the harpist. Born in Cagliari, Eleonora embarked on her harp journey at the age of 7 under the guidance of Tiziana Loi. Graduating with honors from the Giuseppe Verdi Conservatory in Turin, Eleonora furthered her studies in London's Trinity Laban Conservatory. Her dedication to music expanded into pedagogy, leading her to a degree at the Conservatory of Lugano in 2018. Throughout her career, Eleonora has earned acclaim in national and international competitions, winning prizes and the first harp position in the Central European Orchestra, directed by Maestro Igor Corretti. Currently, she is a harp teacher in various musical schools in Ticino. Eleonora will perform for us 2 musical pieces by Coldplay, Paradise and Viva la Vida. Eleonora, the floor is yours.